Good evening, thanks for joining us. This is NTD Business, and I'm Paul Graney. Should you be forced to join a union? House Democrats are proposing a new bill that some are calling anti-freedom. And Tesla stock loses big again, is down a third from its January record high. What's causing it? That and more, coming up on NTD Business. 12 states are suing President Biden over a climate change executive order. Missouri is leading the charge and says the order could severely impact the state's economies. The state's AG says manufacturing, agriculture, and energy production are all essential to the state's economy and provide thousands of jobs. He says Biden's order will leave those workers in the dust. The lawsuit says Biden's order could cause trillions of dollars of damage to the U.S. economy. It also says the order threatens the separation of powers under the Constitution. The White House has said the order is to protect public health and the environment, as well as our national treasures. And we have reached out to the White House for comment. You could have another $1,400 in your hands as early as this week. Congress is finalizing the new relief bill, and once President Biden signs it, eligible Americans will get their latest stimmy check. Nearly 160 million households are expected to get one. The Senate passed its version of the spending bill over the weekend. Now the House is expected to pass the revised stimulus package on Tuesday. And homeowners are having a tough time paying back their loans. We share some best practices when you're dealing with your bank in that situation. NTD's Phil Zoe reports.
If you owe the bank any money for your house or property investment, you might want to listen up. Nearly 3 million property owners are in forbearance right now. What that means is that the bank is willing to reduce or suspend your monthly payments. But even so, many homeowners are missing their monthly payments and at risk of foreclosure. And the longer you are in forbearance, the more difficult it may be to get your payments back on track. So, what can a homeowner do?
Is to reach out and get in touch with your lender. There are payment relief options available on a scale like we've never seen before.
McBride says banks are willing to get creative to help you pay your mortgage.
From tacking those missed payments onto the end of the loan, doing a mortgage modification.
And if that doesn't work, selling your property could be another option.
With the equity a lot of homeowners are sitting on, if you need to exit the property, many homeowners are able to sell and leave with money in their pocket.
Pricing your property well and working with a good broker is key to selling your home. You might just get a record price. And lastly, always save money. Don't blow your paycheck on anything else. Stay focused on paying off that mortgage on time. Phil Zoe, NTD News, New York.
Some are calling a new labor bill anti-freedom. Lawmakers today are discussing a bill that would scrap the right-to-work laws across the country. These right-to-work laws give you a right to work for a company without being forced to join a union. You can still choose to join the union and pay dues, but you don't have to. But now Democrats are proposing a Right to Organize Act, or PRO Act. Individual states would no longer be allowed to have right-to-work laws. 27 states have them at the moment. Workers could be forced to join unions, and even many independent contractors would now be classified as employees, even if they prefer to be their own boss. Supporters of the bill say it will protect workers and unions. They claim some workers benefit from unions without having to pay dues. Here's some clips from today's House hearing.
The Protecting the Right to Organize Act will strengthen workers' ability to stand together and to organize for better pay, for safer working conditions, and for stronger benefits.
Wayne Weingarten just published a study on government regulation of the gig economy in California. Asked him why the new bill is anti-freedom.
Well, it's anti-freedom because workers are losing the right to choose whether or not a union is representing them well and have the right to choose to be part of the union or not. I mean, that's the whole idea of right to work states, right? Is that if you believe the union is going to improve your individual kind of well-being, then you have the right to join it. But if you don't, then you don't have to. And what that does is it creates a check on union power. It makes sure that the unions, it disciplines them, just like a market discipline and anything else. It disciplines the unions to serve the interests of the workers, not the interests of union leadership.
Is this a surprise that these types of bills have started to come up?
It's not a surprise at all. This is one of the most kind of anti-entrepreneurial, anti-worker freedom bills that we've seen really in recent memory. But it's not a surprise. It's part of what the Progressive Caucus has been pushing, what they campaigned on, and so in a way they're just fulfilling that promise. The problem is that there are severe economic consequences, both for the people they're trying to help as well as for the economy writ large.
And on that point, what will it mean for me as a consumer for my Uber rides or for my takeouts?
It's going to mean less choice. It's going to be higher costs. It's going to be service restrictions. All of the dynamic processes that create a much more vibrant service where you come up with new ways and people are experimenting and trying to serve customers better. All of that, all of those incentives are going to be dampened. And if you're a worker, what we're going to end up with is a much more rigid labor market. Think Europe, right, where there's a lot of worker, quote unquote, rights in Europe. And those who are lucky enough to have a job are doing well. But the hiring is very slow. There's no new job growth. Unemployment rates are persistently high. So there's a lot of consequences.
From today's hearing or looking forward, what has stood out so far, or what are you kind of keeping your eye on looking forward?
I'm keeping my eye on the progress of this and the reception. I think we need to push back against this idea that this idea of empowering unions is actually helping workers. And we need to dive deeper into the historical experience to really understand what are the policies that help working class people increase their income, increase their wealth, and what are those that harm working class people. And the irony is those people right now speaking loudest for the working class are actually going to do the most harm.
And a lot of these people, what they're saying is, well, we just want to protect these gig workers, protect the independent workers, make sure they have benefits, make sure they're not being taken advantage of. Is this not the case?
It's not the case. I mean, you have to take unions and take right to work again. You have union or potential union employees who are rejecting the union. They don't want to join. You have companies who are locating in states that don't have forced unionization because they don't feel like it provides value in terms of their workforce. So here is a negative signal saying that unions are not providing value to either companies or to workers. And as opposed to listening and trying to kind of revise what unions do, what they're in effect trying to do is force you to buy that product. And it's going to be a subpar product.
Yeah, I don't think it's good to force anybody to do anything, work out a problem for them. Mr. Weingarten, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
On Wall Street today, the market ended pretty mixed. Slumps in big tech again, offset gains in some other parts of the market. The Dow rose 306 points, 0.97%. S&P 500 lost 21 points, or 0.54%. The Nasdaq dropped 311 points, or 2.41%. Bad run for the Nasdaq. The 10-year Treasury yield held a near more than one-year high at around 1.6%. Spot gold dropped 1.2% after hitting a 9-month low. Probably no coincidence there. But wholesale inventories increased in January despite that surge in sales, suggesting inventory investment could again contribute to the growth in the first quarter. Oil prices soared above $70 briefly this morning after Houthis attacked Saudi oil facilities for the second time this month. Brent crude was at its highest level since before the pandemic, reaching over $71 before dropping back a little bit. And WTI crude was at its highest level in over 2 years at nearly $68 per barrel before slipping back as well. It was also partly due to OPEC's decision last week to stick with output cuts. Tesla shares fell today amidst that tech sell-off. It's wiped out over $244 billion off the firm's market value in just the last month. In other words, it's lost a third of its value. Tech stocks have been hit by rising U.S. Treasury yields, investors also moving funds according to which sectors may benefit from a global economic recovery. One expert says people went into Tesla too aggressively anyway, shooting the price up to $900 a share. He says what's happening now is just a correction. And Harley Davidson has decided the best way to get younger customers to buy a new motorcycle is to sell them a used one first. Fred Kadamaya reports.
Harley-Davidson can't rest its laurels on its fiercely loyal but aging fan base, so it's taking a page from automakers. Next month, the iconic American motorcycle maker will begin selling certified pre-owned bikes aimed at capturing younger buyers. Its program, HD Certified, marks its first entry into the used marketplace in the U.S. More than 300 dealers have expressed interest in participating. It's part of Harley's new strategy aimed at expanding the brand's appeal beyond middle-aged and affluent riders. Harley needs to attract new riders. The 118-year-old brand has been steadily losing market share in the U.S. Retail sales have fallen for 6 years. Used Harleys are less expensive and demand for pre-owned bikes is strong. Some dealers told Reuters used Harleys outsold new ones last year by 3-1. And J.D. Power data shows Harley was the most sought-after brand in the market for used bikes last year. Under the new program, Harley will certify motorcycles up to 5 years of age with up to 25,000 miles. They'll be inspected and backed by a 12-month limited warranty.
Looks like people are taking to the air again. New government numbers show almost 1.3 million people passed through airport security checkpoints Sunday. That's the highest level since January 3rd. It's typical for air travel to pick up in March as students across the country go on spring break, and analysts believe more people will feel comfortable flying as they get vaccinated. The major airlines are cautiously optimistic that the industry may be starting to recover. We often hear about companies beating analyst revenue estimates, and it sounds pretty positive. Better than falling short anyway, right? Well, the SEC says that AT&T persuaded analysts to lower its revenue estimates in 2016 so it wouldn't miss that target. Now it's suing the telecom company. NTD's Tom Ozimek reports.
The Securities and Exchange Commission is suing AT&T and 3 executives. It's for allegedly disclosing non-public information to avoid falling short of revenue forecasts. The SEC says that in March 2016, AT&T found out its first quarter smartphone sales would suffer a steeper than expected decline, and that would leave the company falling short of analysts' estimates. The complaint says AT&T's revenue could fall short over $1 billion. The company's chief financial officer then allegedly directed investor relations employees to get the analysts to lower their estimates so that the forecasts wouldn't overshoot the actual revenues. This was allegedly done by disclosing non-public information in violation of securities laws. Regulation requires when companies disclose information to market professionals and analysts, that information also needs to be shared with the public to level the playing field. The SEC says the leaks led analysts to lower their forecasts, which allowed AT&T to report better than expected revenue. AT&T has denied the allegations. Tom Ozimek, NTD News.
The White House is urging computer network operators to check if they've been compromised by a recent hack on Microsoft software. It says a recent software patch only protects against future attacks, but doesn't help if they've already been breached. NTD's Patrick Hayden reports.
The White House is raising the alarm over a recent breach in Microsoft's email services. Spokeswoman Jen Psaki said companies should take it very seriously.
This is an active threat, and as the National Security Advisor tweeted last night, everyone running these servers, government, private sector, academia, needs to act now to patch them.
CNN reported Sunday that President Biden is forming a task force to address the hack. Microsoft and cybersecurity group FireEye says the Chinese regime is behind the attack, but Beijing denies its involvement. The tech company released a patch last week to address flaws in Outlook, its email software, but the remedy can only defend against new hacking attempts. The White House National Security Council tweeted Sunday, "Patching and mitigation is not remediation. It's essential that any organization with a vulnerable server take measures to determine if they were already targeted." Microsoft initially said the attack was limited, but last week the White House said there was potentially a large number of victims, and it's making a whole of government response. Microsoft says it's working with the government to guide vulnerable clients as more attacks are expected. Patrick Hayden, NTD News.
Still to come. People in the UK are now allowed to meet with their friends outdoors, but there are strict rules. And the art of traditional piano making was almost lost. It seems like the business is coming back to life thanks to changing habits. That and more after the break.
Trends may be fleeting, but values are timeless. We now bring you this new clothing brand with classic design and luxurious comfort. It's our way of sharing hope and inspiration from the world of Shenyun. We bring you Shenyun Dancer. Wear it with honor.
In England, pubs, restaurants and shops remain closed, but there's new rules for meeting in outdoor spaces. People can now meet with one friend who's not in their household to socialize. NTD's Jane Worrell reports.
Spring has just about sprung and restrictions are starting to lift a little. For outdoor socialising, it's allowed now to meet another person outdoors, in the words of the government guidance, for recreation. Previously, it was just for exercise. It means you can meet one other person outside your household for a coffee or a picnic. The rule of 6 outdoors will come back later on in the month. There's still a wait before things become more normal.
I'd rather wait and not see another lockdown, anything rather than another lockdown. Otherwise, I just have to go walking round and round this park forever. I might obviously see my wife every day, and that's lovely, but we're going to get together with our kids and our grandkids, and we'll have to wait another 3 weeks for that.
We're really happy to meet friends now instead of just talking on the phone and Zooming, to be together in person.
Woke up and felt exactly the same this morning as I did yesterday morning. I've had the vaccine, I've had coronavirus.
I think government has done all it can, and we just have to be patient and take it, one step at a time. So slowly looking at dates, looking at when the restaurants will open and all the rest.
Pub gardens and outdoor dining are set to return in mid-April. Before that, the rule of 6 comes back on March 29th outdoors, so 6 people can meet, or 2 households are allowed to meet outside even if their total number comes to more than 6. That's when outdoor sports will start too. The hope is for all legal limits on social contact to eventually be relaxed by June the 21st. Jane Worrell, NTD News, London.
British food delivery firm Deliveroo is planning to launch what could be London's biggest listing in more than 7 years. Just announced the news today. NTD's Patrick Hayden reports.
British tech company Deliveroo is being listed on the London Stock Exchange. It's expected it will be valued at more than $7 billion, which will make it the biggest IPO in the UK since Royal Mail in 2013. Deliveroo says it's grown the total number of transactions and its gross transaction value went up 64% last year. Worldwide lockdowns meant business surged, but founder Will Shu thinks this shift will continue. As he says, when lockdowns were lifted, growth continued. The company says its restaurant and grocery markets represent a market of $1.7 trillion. That's in the 12 countries it operates in, of which an estimated just 3% is currently done online. Deliveroo is still a loss-making company, but that's not expected to put off investors as they look to the future. Patrick Hayden, NTD News.
And Austrian authorities are blocking a batch of AstraZeneca and CCP virus vaccines. They're investigating the doses as a precaution after one person died and another got sick after the shots. Authorities are looking for possible connections between the vaccine batch and what happened to the patients. One 49-year-old woman died as a result of severe blood clotting disorders, and another 35-year-old woman developed an acute lung disease but is recovering. Austrian health authorities have not yet found a link between the conditions and the vaccine. Media reports say the women were both nurses working at the clinic that vaccinated them. An AstraZeneca spokesman said the vaccine is safe and thoroughly tested. The company also added it was in contact with Austrian authorities and would fully support the investigation. Disneyland in California could reopen next month after being closed for over a year, but there's a condition. It'll only be safe to state residents at first. Fred Katamaya reports.
Dreams really can come true.
Mickey Mouse and Minnie could soon be reopening the doors to the Magic Kingdom in California. State officials have set new rules that would allow Disneyland and other theme parks, stadiums, and outdoor entertainment venues to reopen as early as April 1st. They've been closed for nearly a year, but there are major caveats. Officials said Friday theme parks can restart with limited capacity only if the counties where they operate are removed from the purple tier of the state's color-coded restrictions. Purple is where the COVID-19 threat is deemed most severe. Theme parks in red-tier counties could reopen at 15% capacity. Those in less restrictive tiers could operate at 25% to 35% capacity. The parks would initially only be open to state residents. Masks and other safety measures would still be required. But it remained unclear whether rising vaccinations and falling COVID-19 infection rates would go far enough for purple-tiered Orange County, where Disneyland is located, to reach red by the end of next month. Disneyland Resort did not give a date for a Disneyland reopening.
The last traditional piano maker in Britain is seeing a surge in sales while people are stuck at home. Workers there now hope the 200-year-old tradition will survive and be passed on to future generations.
A surge in demand for pianos during lockdown might be reviving an old tradition. At one time, there were more than 350 traditional piano-making factories in Britain. Now there's only one. The company's managing director says it's important the master craft isn't lost.
You just have to do it by feel, by touch. And that's the craft of building a piano, or really the art of building a piano. 200 years of tradition and 200 years of knowledge. It would just be tragic if that was lost forever.
A small team of workers here is keeping the craft alive from a converted barn. Each piano is made by hand, strung with 230 strings for a unique British tone. Each one takes around 5 months to complete.
I've been here just under a year now, and I think this is the third piano I've strung. And it's just really, it's really great to see it from start to finish.
Once the piano is built and strung by hand, it is put through a machine called the basher, which plays in the piano, pressing every key more than 5,000 times. Thanks to our different lifestyles during the pandemic, it seems the age-old British craftsmanship of piano building may have been saved.
As the latest business updates for today, you can still catch NTD Evening News at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Stephanie Cox. For NTD Business, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.